In the August developer livestream from Visionary Realms, developers of the upcoming MMORPG Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, they detailed some of the changes that the Dire Lord class will be getting in the next scheduled pre-alpha testing session in September. In Pantheon, the Dire Lord is planned to fulfill the tank role, one that's particularly effective against caster enemies. It utilizes Essence as its combat-specific resource, wields large weapons, but maintains its mobility by wearing chain armor. This is a class that VR gave us a good look at when it demonstrated it in this developer update. We've also seen it in action, in real-time gameplay, when myself and others got to take the Dire Lord into the dungeons of Fortress Dyer last year. So, what's new with the Dire Lord in 2022? Let's find out. Adam Tehom Mostel, production manager for VR, took us through the new skills and abilities. The Dire Lord was the only melee class shown in the August developer stream, which means it's the only one we saw that had the new mechanic of weapon techniques infused into its skills. The one we saw for the Dire Lord, Essence Harvester, was noted by Tehom to be a general technique in line with the other techniques acquired by melee classes at level 2. This one helps the Dire Lord generate essence, as the name implies, at the cost of another resource called Readiness. Tehom mentioned something new in VR's design is the use of attribute bonuses. Like seen here, where Essence Harvester gets better with the Dire Lord's intelligence statistic, and to a lesser extent, their strength stat. They said the intent of some of these iterations was to increase the emphasis on managing essence, and this one seems to do just that. Continuing to lean into the intelligent tank concept, Devouring Constitution supports any sacrifice the Dire Lord had to make in their Constitution stat in favor of intelligence by stealing the enemies instead. How much you devour appears to scale with your intelligence, which you'll keep for up to 1.5 minutes. It's unclear if the duration can be controlled or it's random. On a 1-minute cooldown, however, theoretically, you could be ready to devour more Constitution before the effect even wears off. This feeds directly into VR's desire to expand the Dire Lord's identity around draining mechanics. Again, using these stat-fed abilities allows them to stay relevant rather than needing a replacement as you progress in levels. Boil Blood is a relatively simple damage over time, but it showcases the Dire Lord's ability to live in both melee and the caster realm. It's a spell that can be interrupted and silenced, working from the corruption skill of the Dire Lord. As I just noted, VR wants these skills and stats to feed abilities and keep them relevant, and that may be the case here too, although Tehom didn't specifically mention that aspect with regard to Boil Blood. But remember, the Lord didn't choose the Dyer chose the Lord. What is the Dyer anyway? That's a good question, and it's one I may try to answer in a future lore video, but for our purposes here today, this next ability, Blood Fiend, imbues your weapon with the Dyer, giving you a lifesteal effect and an essence stealing effect as well. This is something VR has talked about with regard to the Dire Lord before, that being a state, which synergizes with other class abilities for maximum effect. In this case, Blood Fiend gets twice as powerful if the enemy is bleeding from something like the rogue's Leaking Wound ability. The long cooldown here is clearly indicative of the power of this ability, lest the Dire Lord become an unkillable, soul-sucking beast. Speaking of soul-sucking, the Dyer is again in full effect with Call of the Dyer, which isn't new, but has been tweaked since the last pre-alpha testing session in 2021. When VR talked about making refinements to threat management, this is clearly what they meant. This intense ability not only stops the enemy from running away, but actually pulls them to within 3 meters of you, at which point they're so angry with the Dire Lord, killing you is all they care about. The cost of this potent threat management tool is the 10-second channeling. That's a long time to be incapacitated. Although, theoretically, if the enemy's already pretty close, it will end before the 10 seconds has gone by, opening up the potential for some interesting usage. I've seen a lot of conversation in the community comparing the Dire Lord in Pantheon to the Shadow Knight of EverQuest fame, or maybe the Blood Mage in Vanguard. What do you think of the Dire Lord's abilities? Have you ever played a similar class in other MMOs? Let me know in the comments. And stay tuned for more class updates by subscribing and turning on notifications. Until next time, cheers, and thanks for watching.